Here is the corrected script. If you're someone who analyzes absolutely everything, this might tire you out just by listening to it. Because there's something almost nobody understands about you. You're not thinking too much. You're seeing too much. There's a kind of person who walks into a room and within seconds feels that something is off. Nobody said anything strange. There's no obvious tension. And yet, they notice it. A glance that slips away. A smile that lasts half a second too long. A normal sentence that sounds just slightly false. And their mind has already analyzed all of it. From the outside, this looks like a gift, like they can see what others can't. But from the inside, it doesn't feel that way, because it never switches off. They can't just be. They can't simply enjoy something. They take it home. They replay it. They rebuild it again and again. They're the kind of person who can turn a small silence into an entire universe of thoughts. And if you're like this, you already know it isn't easy. Because this isn't really about intelligence. It's about seeing too much, too deep, too constantly. And that drains you. Today we're going to understand the psychology of people who are too aware. And something even more important, how to stop being trapped by your own mind. Because this doesn't show up by accident. There are two main paths. The first is simply how you were born. Highly sensitive people whose nervous system works like an ultra-fine filter, they feel everything more. They perceive everything more. They don't see the world in normal mode. They see it in high resolution. But the second path is very different. It isn't a gift. It's survival. Imagine growing up in an environment where everything changes, where the emotional weather is never stable. One day, everything is fine, and the next, you have no idea what's coming. That child can't relax. He has to learn to anticipate, to read signals, to detect the smallest shifts. The sound of a door, the way someone walks, a tone of voice. Everything becomes information, not because he wants it to, but because he needs it to. And little by little, he becomes a radar. In psychology, this is called hypervigilance. The brain learns, one thing, if I'm not paying attention, something bad can happen. And here's what matters most. Nobody teaches you this. Your mind builds it on its own. And over time, it stops being a reaction and becomes who you are. That's why, when you grow up, so many people wonder, why do they think so much? What's wrong with them? But the truth is different. You're not broken. You just learned to survive a little too well, and that mechanism is still running. Now, in adult life, this becomes very clear. First sign, and this is where the real wear and tear begins. You live in constant analysis mode. For other people, a conversation is just a conversation. For you, it isn't. Your mind is always working, interpreting, comparing, drawing conclusions. A simple message can set all of it off. You talk, it ends, and your head starts. Something happened. They're upset. I did something wrong. You don't just hear words. You read the pauses, the tiny shifts, the invisible details. And while one part of you is present, the other part is analyzing everything, as if you were living in two layers at once. And that is exhausting. Even if you did nothing all day, even if you just sat there, your mind never stopped. Second sign, and this one is quieter but far more destructive. You analyze yourself constantly. You don't just feel, you watch yourself feeling. You feel something and automatically you question it. Why do I feel this way? Does it make sense? Should I even be feeling this? You even analyze your own happiness. You laugh, and a second later, you think, that was too much. That was weird. It's like living in front of a mirror all the time. You never lose yourself, but you never let yourself go either. And slowly, you lose something important. You lose your spontaneity. Third sign. And this is where something changes forever. You lose your innocence in relationships. You start to see beyond, too far beyond. You know people don't always say what they think. You know that sometimes there's an intention behind the words, and that changes everything. A compliment isn't just a compliment anymore. An apology doesn't always feel real. You start to wonder, what does this person want? Why did they do that? And even if you don't turn negative, you turn cautious. Because you can't simply believe the surface anymore. And sometimes that leaves you feeling alone, even surrounded by people. Fourth sign. And this is where you empty out the most. You feel too much. Your empathy doesn't switch off. You don't choose when to feel. It just happens. You walk into a place and you pick up the mood, even if nobody says a word. Someone is uncomfortable and you feel it. Someone is hurting and it stays inside you. You don't just understand emotions, you absorb them, and that has a price. You become the one who holds everyone else, who calms them, who listens, who understands. But who holds you because all of that doesn't disappear? It stays. Fifth sign. And here it's no longer just mental. Your body lives on alert too. It isn't only in your head, it's physical. Your body picks up everything, a faster heartbeat, a strange sensation, and your mind reads it as danger. And that's where the loop begins. You feel something, you interpret it, you get more activated, and you feel even more. Anxiety, even when nothing is happening. And in the end, your body becomes a constant alarm. And when all of this comes together, something else appears. You try to control everything, not on the outside, but inside. You try to predict, to anticipate, to avoid the pain before it arrives. You think that if you understand everything, nothing can catch you off guard. But that has a cost. You drift away from the present. You start living in possible scenarios, in futures that don't even exist yet. And without realizing it, you stop living what's actually happening right now. So what can you do? You can't stop being aware. That doesn't work. The key isn't to see less, it's to carry less. Because not everything you see belongs to you. There are 3 things that change everything. First, not everything means something. Sometimes people are just tired. Sometimes there's no hidden message. Second, not everything you feel needs to be solved. You can feel something and let it pass without analyzing it. Third, not everything you understand has to be acted on. You can see something and not step in because understanding doesn't mean carrying. And when you start to let go, something shifts. Your mind doesn't disappear, but it softens. You still see deep, but you no longer drown in it. You still feel, but it no longer drags you away. And little by little, you come back to the present. You stop trying to anticipate everything, and you start to live. Because in the end, you don't need to shut your mind off. You just need to lower the intensity, to go from a light that analyzes everything to one that simply illuminates. And then, everything feels lighter. If you saw yourself in this, it's not a coincidence. You're not complicated. you're someone who learned to see too much for too long, and that leaves a mark. But it also means something important. It means you have a way of understanding the world that most people never reach. The point isn't to turn that off. It's to learn to live without letting it consume you. Because when you stop carrying all of it, your mind doesn't disappear. It becomes lighter, clearer, more yours. And then something changes. You stop analyzing life, and you start living it. And if you made it this far, tell me one thing. At what moment in your life did you start being this way? Because sometimes understanding where it comes from changes everything.